You're listening to the Hazard Ground Podcast, with service members from across the military sharing their stories of combat and survival. And now, here's your host, Mark Zeno.
Welcome into the Hazard Ground Podcast. This week's guest is someone that you may know as he spent some time in the National Football League, but he was also a Green Beret prior to landing a job with the Seattle Seahawks, and he is Nate Boyer. Just a quick note before we get to Nate that he is a guy who is very active. He is traveling all over the country and sometimes all over the world. And because he travels so much, he was on a Bluetooth headset for this podcast interview. So some of the sound quality not as great as we've had with others, but obviously Nate's story is one that needs to be told. And we welcome him into the Hazard Ground Podcast. Nate, thanks for being here.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me.
Again, your story is not typical. A lot of the people that we talk to on the podcast, either they go into the military out of high school or they know it's something that they always wanted to do. For you, it was a little bit of a different path. Prior to joining the military, tell us about your life and what you were doing.
Like you talking about like immediately prior?
Well, not immediately. I mean, what led you to the decision to join the military?
Yeah, you know what really led me to the decision ultimately was some time I spent in the Darfur working at some refugee camps doing some relief work. It wasn't through any particular organization, NGO or anything. I worked with them, but to get myself over there, I sort of just had to buy a ticket on my own and kind of just make it happen. I was in my early 20s, and I didn't have a degree or anything. And at that time, and I had really thought about it seriously. I thought about it for a brief moment in high school, but it wasn't something I legitimately considered. And then I graduated high school. I moved down to San Diego first, worked in a fishing boat for a while, and then up to Los Angeles, doing a bunch of odd jobs. And I kind of just lost. Didn't really have any purpose. Wasn't fulfilled in a lot of ways. So when I heard about what was going on in Sudan, the genocide, I just wanted to help in some way. So I kind of, I called every NGO first to see if I could volunteer with them, and they wouldn't let me because I didn't have the degree. It was like this extremely long vetting process, and I was like, look, people are dying over there. I want to do something to help them. And so what I ended up doing is just, like I said, buy my own plane ticket, flying over there, and like figure it out once I got on the ground. So I would later learn that was kind of my first special forces mission, without knowing it. And but my time spent over there, I just developed such a respect for people in places like that have absolutely nothing and are content in some way, with that, and all they want is the essentials for survival. And I had this feeling that these people were worth fighting for more than just people that I wanted to hand out of food or encouragement to. So when I came back to the States, and I went to the recruiter, heard about the 18 X-ray program, and then signed up kind of with not a lot of knowledge of what the Special Forces training was like, but more with the knowledge of their mission and what they were about, which was foreign internal defense and liberating the oppressed. And so that was just something that was my motivation for joining it.
It's interesting because there are a lot of people who do the SF thing, who do the special ops that I talk to, that have that same mantra. It just comes from a place where they just want to help. They want to make a difference. They want to change people and things in areas for the better. And I just think it's something that's innate in you guys. I think it's something that you're born with, because not everybody's like that.
Right, and it's just there's a lot of guys I think that come into the Army that think they want to be a Green Beret, but they don't understand the mission. And everything that we do, all of our objectives, are everything that we accomplish is by, with, and through local nationals. So when we go to Iraq and we go to Afghanistan, we're fighting alongside Iraqis and Afghans, which a lot of the military does now, but it always starts with the special forces. Yes, there's the much sexier and cool stories of like the horse soldiers, the first ones on the ground in Afghanistan with the Green Berets, like that. But the day in and day out operations of the special forces always involve local nationals, no matter what country you're in, and that can be a huge challenge, but it is also very rewarding in a lot of ways because you get to see the change firsthand in a lot of these people and the appreciation for, leaving what you have here to go over there and fight for them. You can see that with those people that from those places that want to improve their quality of life and make things better for their family.
All right, Nate, take me back to what you saw in Darfur for a second, because was there something that, I can only imagine just walking off the plane in Darfur with like no actual direction as far as where do I go, who do I talk to, and how do I help, and just walking around looking for locals, say, hey, do you need a hand? Was there anything, well, tell me about that experience first, but was there anything you saw in Darfur that said, you know what, it was a catalyst for the decision to go, you know what, I need to have a purpose, and the military is my purpose?
Yeah, honestly, I did as much research as I could, actually at the public library here in Los Angeles before I left. This was back in 2004, where, the internet is just not what it is today. And there wasn't a lot of information online, but I did figure out where the refugee camps were located. So I knew, once I got to the capital there in Chad, which is a neighboring country to the west, I'd have to get myself out of the capital, which you needed some special documentation. You're supposed to have some special documentation to leave there. But I had to find a way to get out of there and then make my way over to the eastern border where the refugee camps were. And, figuring out, how to sweet talk somebody into letting me go, because I didn't have that proper paperwork, and I wasn't going to have it because I wasn't there with any organization. So, that was a challenge. I remember getting off the airport in the middle of the night, and I didn't leave the airport, so I figured, if I leave, maybe I'll never get back in here, and I won't be able to get on another plane to get over to where I want to go. But I was able to track down the people who had the manifest for the UN flights. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees had these flights, these little twin prop planes flying across the Sahara and landing over by the refugee camps, and then people would link up with their contacts and go to work. Well, I obviously didn't have any contacts, but I was able to kind of BS my way on that flight and take an empty seat. And once I got over there, I just, I'm like, hey, I'm here. You have to use me now. And luckily I found a couple people that understood why I was there and didn't think I worked for the CIA or something, because there was definitely those people too. Thought I was some sort of a spy. But, yeah, it was funny.
That's got to be nuts.
Stripped down multiple times. But anyway,
Really?
And once I got over there and found those people that were like, okay, look, this guy has nothing on him. I had like a toothbrush and malaria pills. You know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna take pictures of anything or, assassinate anybody. I don't have any weapons. So, but what really? Second part of your question there was the kids, man. There's so many kids that were so young and not even just. I don't even know if half of them understood that they'd never see their fathers again, or that their homes were, completely destroyed, their mothers were raped. Like, they don't even grasp that yet. They still have so much innocence. And just the thought of what happens with a lot of the child soldiers over there, and the idea that I was born here with all these opportunities and choices and just a supportive nation in general, such a much a place with no problems when you compare them to the problems of the developing world. And I didn't do anything to deserve this, and they didn't do anything to deserve that. I just felt like it was a duty of mine, or something important, that I did at least attempted to do something to give them at least the opportunities that I have,
Yeah,
and I thought that, and I still think that as difficult and challenging and as big a struggle as it is, war in a lot of ways is unfortunately necessary for those things, because there's just so much corruption in our world, and there's just so many people that take advantage of the uneducated, and the very few people in power in a lot of those places just inflict their will, and it's just not fair. And that was where that all came from. It was just not fair to me.
No, I mean, it's beautifully said, Nate. Honestly, it's just, I think for people who have been deployed like myself and yourself, you see depravity all over the world. And honestly, everyday Americans don't have the capacity to really appreciate everything that we have. The simple thing, you flip on a light switch and the lights go on. You turn on the faucet and water comes out, clean, drinkable water. I mean, these are things that everybody takes for granted every day. And until you experience the other side, like you've seen both in Darfur and in Iraq, I mean, it's hard to really put into words to other people how blessed we really are sometimes.
And speaking for myself, I even forget. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's so easy when we come back here because everything really is incredibly nice. And of course, we're going to have our rifts with politics and all kinds of stuff like that. But generally, I'm not too worried about us, because I just know that I'm not trying to say. I just know that we've overcome so much already, and we have so many checks and balances that everything's going to be okay. Places like that, a new person or a new group comes into power, and their lives have completely changed, and it seems to be trending towards completely changing for the worse more often than not. And it's just it's really scary.
Agreed. I mean, hey, let's go forward here for a minute to when you signed up. You said you went to the recruiter. When you went there, did you know that you were going to sign up to be a Green Beret? Was that your intent?
Yeah, it was. And I didn't even know what, like I kind of said earlier, I didn't really know what the Special Forces actually had done. I just, I'd seen, Rambo was a Green Beret, and
it's a good start.
All this other stuff. And you kind of have this idea of what you think it is. And then when I got back from the Darfur, though, I saw this magazine article that was written talking about the 18 X-ray program, which is bringing civilians off the streets that pass a certain number of tests, both physical and mental, to come into the infantry, go to airborne school, and then if you pass those and you do well, you go to a pre-selection course, and you get to go straight to a selection course. So you kind of go right into the Green Beret training if you pass everything, which was a small percentage of it. But I read that article, and I was reading about what their actual mission is, over there, what they actually do. And, I kept seeing the word indigenous, and indigenous, working with indigenous forces. And that, I had just come back from doing that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a knack for this. I love this. I can relate to people when there's that language barrier and all that. And I actually want to be a part of this mission. So that, once I found out what they actually did, I was just like, this is the only job I want to do in the military. So I have to make it. And I guess having that mindset when I went into the training, too, really helped, because it was like, for me, I didn't want to be at any other unit. No other unit was going to be good enough for me. And not that sounds really bad, I guess we can say it like that. It just not that I'm too good for that unit, but just what I wanted wasn't in line necessarily with what those other units were focused on. What I wanted was 100% what the Special Forces were doing over there,
No, again, well said, and I understand what you mean when you say it's what you want. A lot of guys who make it into Special Forces and actually get their tab have that same mentality. This is what I want to do in the military. This is for me. It's not guys who, hey, I was an infantryman and I wanted to try something tougher or next level. Those are the guys I find when I talk to that end up going through it, and they just don't make it because that internal drive is what separates guys who end up completing all the training and getting a tab versus guys who don't. Am I off on that?
No, you're 100%. It's not always. It's funny. I remember looking around at the class before selection, and there's some guys that totally look the part. You know what I mean? Big, burly, freaking chiseled, athletic, definitely smart. Blah blah blah. All those things that you think, oh, this guy's definitely going to make it. And then there's the guys at the time that looked like me, and some of these other guys that were just a little bit maybe smaller, and or even guys that were a touch overweight, and not the brightest guys in the world. But what set them apart was the passion for this job, and they wanted to be a part of this more than anything. They were willing to sacrifice all the comforts and go through the pain and understand that this is going to completely suck for the next year and a half. But at the end, it's what I want, so I have to go through this phase. I have to, put up with this. And those are the guys that made it. And it's just such a mix at the end of the day when you walk into a team room even now. And you see all the guys on the team there, they don't all look like clones. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just all different skin colors and sizes from all parts of the country, and some of them grew up, on the farm, hunting every day and all that, and some of them were like me, who barely shot a gun in his life growing up, kind of a city boy, you know what I mean? Just I had something else to offer, something different to offer, and a different reason for me wanting to be there. And but those are the ones that make it.
What was tougher for you? Was it the assessment and selection portion or the actual qualification course?
Probably, honestly, the qualification course. And I would say the assessment and selection is physically very much harder, and even mentally in some ways, as far as, you've got to be completely focused and you're deprived of sleep and food and stuff like that. You've got to, still be locked in and moving forward. But for me, it was I loved the competition aspect that came with selection, and that you're kind of racing everybody else, and you don't even know what the time standards are. So it's just go as hard as you can for as long as you can, because you don't know if you're going fast enough. And a lot of it also was different from in the special forces and in the other special operations unit, or any unit really. Through our selection process, almost everything's individual. We do have a team where we get named, but you're out on your own. You're out walking around, wandering around in the woods, looking for specific points, on a map with a compass, and you're crossing, miles and miles of rough terrain, and you're completely you're alone with your thoughts and your own doubts and insecurities and all that stuff, and you got to overcome that. And every day is just another grind. You got to kind of get through. And for me, I don't know. I like the idea of that. I like the idea that I was literally on my own, earning my way in. But I kind of have that blue collar mentality like that. I love to push myself physically, because every time you push yourself physically, if you do it hard enough and long enough, you end up pushing yourself quite a bit mentally. And so for me, I don't know. Once I got to the qualification course itself, there was so much more stuff in the schoolhouse, and then also, learning all of the tactics and the specific trades you had to learn for your MOS, for your job. That was a little bit more challenging for me. Maybe sometimes I had trouble focusing in the classroom and stuff like that. So I definitely had more of a challenge going through that stuff than I did just, out in the wilderness with a giant rucksack on your back, kind of going for it. It's a lot simpler, I guess, in this situation.
That seems to make sense. I mean, it's just the environment with which you operate in, individually, that's better. Some people operate alone better, and some people work in groups better. It's kind of what the dynamic of the military in general, the teamwork that you want. You get a whole bunch of different people. When you got your tab, that day that you got it, I mean, it must have been one of the proudest days of your life.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget it. I just remember. I remember both the day. I remember the day at the end of selection when I got selected, and I remember getting my pad and my green beret at the end of the Q course. At the end of the Q course, my family came out, so that was really cool. My folks, I'm not married with kids or anything like that, but I had my folks came out and were able to spend the day and see that. And, I just remember how proud my mom and my dad were. And that meant a lot to me because they'd seen the other side of where I could have gone and what I was doing when I was a little bit younger. And so that felt amazing in its own right. But also just knowing you get through something like that and you accomplish something like that, and it's like it feels like you've gone through so much and you really haven't gone through anything that you're still. That's not getting deployed. You haven't done the actual work. I haven't applied what you learned yet. So it's sort of it's a weird feeling of accomplishment. Like I did it, but I really haven't done anything. And then you gotta, a week later you're gonna go meet your new team and you're gonna be the new guy, and you're not going to even have to relearn everything because every team operates differently and does everything different. So, I don't know, it's a mix, but at the same time, just to know that, that I finished this thing and that I set out a goal and I had this dream, a couple years before. And, through the ups and downs and challenges, I didn't quit and I just finished and I got through it. And, it's an amazing thing. One, you're going to be serving with one of the most elite units in the history of any nation in the military.
So many Special Forces guys talk about, the memories they have of guys that they were in class with, both in assessment selection and the actual Q course. There's always one guy that everybody, kind of scratched their head at and like, how the hell did he get here kind of deal? And there's another guy who's just an absolute superstar. What were the guys in your class like? Do you still have relationships with any of those guys?
Yeah, definitely. I was probably one of the guys where at least some of the regular Army guys that were back in the course were scratching their head like, what the hell is this guy doing here? Because
I didn't mean that in a disparaging way.
No, it's funny. I just remember, so when I was in selection, I wore contacts back then, and they won't let you wear contact lenses out in the field. And so I had to wear, not the BCG.
No, I was going to say the BCG, what they call the birth control glasses.
No, they were like these, it was these other like quote-unquote high-speed glasses that, I don't know, they're almost like, seemed almost like swim goggles in some way. They had like that black, like rubber band going around.
I know which ones you're talking about, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They look almost like kind of pilot glasses or something like that. Anyway, I had those things, and I also had like my civilian, just regular, normal-looking glasses. And so one of the nights, about midway through selection, we were supposed to be outside, ready to go, with our rucks packed up, everything set for this, whatever event. They don't tell you what you're going to do every time. They just say, be here at this time, in this uniform, with this equipment, and then we'll give you the rest of the information at that moment. And so we were all out there standing tall, and I remember I'm downing in water, just trying to, I felt like a little underhydrated, so I'm drinking, not sipping out of the canteen, I'm chugging out of the canteen, trying to fill up,
Mm-hmm.
And we're standing there for a while, then all of a sudden they come out and say, get back in your hoochies, and come back out in, 6 hours or something. So everyone was like, oh, cool, we get some sleep. So go back inside the hoochies and hang our stuff up, and I lay down and fall asleep. And I wake up in the middle of the night, and I have to, it's like none other, And the bathrooms are, a couple hundred yards from where my hooch is. And you have to, you got to go to the bathroom. You got to go in the bathroom or whatever. I wake up, I'm like, I got to pee so bad. And I'm scrambling around. I can't find my glasses. I can't find my flashlight to find my glasses. I'm like blinded with that. And I put my shower shoes on, like stumble outside, and I'm outside, and I literally cannot tell which way anything. Like I just can't see. My vision is really bad, and I'm just like lost, and I'm gonna piss my pants. Damn it. So I'd like whatever building was in front of me. I kind of, and it's like middle of the night. It's like hazy. I'm half asleep. Whatever building in front of me, I kind of stumble up to the building, walk around the corner, and then just whip it out and start peeing. And like seconds later, I hear this guy's voice standing next to me. He's just like, what's your roster number? And I was like, 32. And I finished peeing, and he goes and wakes up the entire class.
Oh no!
Wakes up everybody in the class. Yeah, and stands me in front of the whole class. And tells me to explain to everybody why they just got woken up and what happened. And I tell him, I say, yeah. I told him the story. I'm like, I couldn't see anything. I got out. I had to go. I just went. I apologize. Blah blah blah. And then they decided to have the peer eval session the next morning.
Oh no!
Peer out. Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking like, oh my God, like I'm screwed. Luckily, I had a contingency of people that other 18 X-rays that I'd gone, even since like basic training and been through stuff with, basic training with, that made their duty because they knew that I was not a bad dude. I just I made a big mistake, and I just if they were in my situation, I think anybody would have done the same thing. You're not going to fish your pants, or I don't know. I didn't know what else to do. I was like, I have to go. So they walked around to all the individual groups and hooches and teams and said, hey, just so everybody knows, like, that dude's a good dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
And whatever. Do what you do. I think I still got a decent amount of pink slips from that event, but at the same time, I was winning, I think, pretty much every run of ruck march in the class, in the entire class. It's like, a couple hundred guys. I was coming in like first or second place on everything. So that was physical in nature, which is multiple selection, and also the land navigation stuff. And so that helped me, I think, because I remember later them talking about, I know they were referencing me. They were talking about it's not all, not all physical out here. Just if you end up, just if you're first and this and that, it doesn't mean that you're a good soldier. And whatever. But I guess I did good enough for them to keep me around. And fortunately, fortunately survived that event. But yeah, so I guess I was one of those guys that shouldn't have been there.
But you bring up a good point, because the peer evals are huge. For those who don't know, in the SF community, in the special ops community, the peer evaluation, what your fellow teammates think of you, is massive, because these are the people who are ultimately going to put their life in your hands and vice versa. So in order to hang around, you've got to let people know that, hey, I'm just not out for me. I'm looking out for the guys next to me, and I'm going to take care of everybody else before I take care of myself.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have that mentality, it gets sought out. It gets discovered quickly, and that's why we do Team Week as well. Team Week, there's, we do peer evaluations almost every day throughout Team Week, and we do them throughout the Sea Corps in different phases and stuff too. But it matters. People, once things get difficult around a group of people, the ones that aren't prepared to handle that and don't know that, look, everybody else is struggling too. It's not all about you anymore. That stuff comes out, and people's true colors come out when there's some suffering involved. and it's important to see, because if you don't want that guy around you in that moment, you're definitely not going to want him standing beside you in a firefight, or on a year-long deployment to the middle of nowhere with just you and your 12-man team. You have to live with this guy every day for some of the day-to-day stuff. I mean, it's tough. it makes a difference. And so, yeah, peer eval become a huge part of it. And, yeah, I mean, that's I remember those guys in my team. You know, there was a couple guys on my team that I was like, these guys are not the right guys. They're not, they're falling apart. You know, they're breaking down, and things are getting tough. And when they're put in a leadership position, they just don't know how to handle it. There's no, they lose all tact. You know what I mean? And and the simple respect you should have for each guy on the team, no matter what their rank is and all that stuff. In those situations, you need each person. You got to win. You got to win hearts and minds over skis. You got to win hearts and minds of your teammates too. And if you don't have that sort of grace in communication and understanding that you're not the only one that's sucking right now, people just don't want to be around you because so much of what we do sucks at the end of the day. It's part of the mission. You know what I mean? There's some really cool stuff that we do, but there's a lot of stuff that sucks. And the last thing you want to be around is negative people when stuff sucks, you know?
All right, well, speaking of the suck, which is also known as Iraq in general, because for those who have been there, it does suck on several levels. But as you said, there are some cool things going on. Now, Iraq wasn't your first assignment. Where did you get stationed first, and then when did you get to Iraq?
I got stationed at 52 course, and I went to the first group out in Okinawa, first battalion out there. It was my first duty station. And I'll just be honest, man, I got out there, and it was beautiful. The country was beautiful. Everything was great. Everything was nice. Everyone's like, you know, you're so lucky to be stationed out here. But you know, I understand that, but I wanted to go to Iraq at that time. I mean, Iraq was sort of the hot spot. This is end of 06 or so, beginning of 07, and I was frustrated to find out that I was going to be first in the SIGDET for a couple months, signal detachment, and then I was going to be the team I was going to be put on was going to be a new team from they're a completely new team they were sort of building up. And their first mission was going to be in the Philippines for a year, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, not that that's not an important mission. I understand people have to do that, but like, I'm a cherry, and the reason I joined is because I want to go to those places, the most austere environments. You know what I mean? And I want to go to war. I just did. And I wanted to put my training to work. And so these recruiters came in from another unit that may or may not exist. And I went to the recruiting meeting after only being in the first group for like 3 months. And I talked to the recruiter afterwards. He said, "Look, I've only been in the Army for 2 years, which I know you're supposed to be in for quite a bit longer to even apply for this. And I've never deployed, but you know, I've got my proper clearances done and everything like that. And I just won the Italian PT test that we did last week. I'm in shape. You know, is there any way I can apply?" And you know, slot opens up, blah blah blah. Is that a possibility? And he said, "Probably not, but here's my information. Send me all your stuff." So I did. I sent all my stuff in that week. You know, I'm kind of waiting to hear back. Like a month later, a few weeks out from the selection, the next selection they were having, I got a letter from them saying that, or an email from them saying that they got me a slot. Somebody dropped out, and I got the last slot in the class. So I went out to that course, went through selection, actually got selected somehow, and started training in their training course. I don't know. I'm trying to be careful here and not say things that are going to incriminate me. But, so I went through a good amount of that, and I was so green. I was so young, Army time-wise. But I always hustled. Once again, in the physical aspect of things, I did very well. And I always volunteered. I was like, I'll go through the shoot house again. Like, I'll do it again. You know what I mean? Which led to me getting more violations than probably anybody else in the course, but I was just learning, you know what I mean? Because I was always like, I'll do it again. Like, I just wanted to, you know, I usually like training from like the best people, the best trainers that have ever walked the earth in the counterterrorism world, and it was, I mean, first of all, really humbling to be allowed to be a part of that, but also just another challenge and something that I definitely was not ready for, and probably shouldn't even have been there. But the fact that I was said a little bit about, I guess, the level of commitment I had to this thing, and how much I just didn't. I wasn't afraid to fail. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think they understood that and saw that. So anyway, I go through a good amount of training, and then one day they bring me into the commander's office, and they're like, "Look, you know, you've come so much farther than we expected you to, and done absolutely great. But the fact still remains, you've only been in the Army for 2 years, and you don't have any deployments in the man. So that's why I'm here. Like, all I want to do is deploy. I want to go to Iraq, you know." And so they said, "All right, well, we're going to make that happen." So they ended up sending me to 10th Group in Colorado Springs, and I got attached to, I mean, so lucky to be around such an amazing group of guys, incredible team. It was a Halo team, and they were deploying in a month. It was like everything that I wanted. And then I got to go there with, yes, I had no deployment still. It had been, now at this time, I'd been around for about 2.5 years. But what I did have was training from, you know, the most elite school you could possibly train for. So I had to, you know, I wasn't so much the new guy, the typical new guy anymore. When I got to the team, these guys were picking my brain about stuff, and they were interested in hearing all that I'd learned. And, you know, yeah, I was a rookie, but at the same time, a respected rookie. And so that was really cool. That helped with that transition, you know. And yeah, I mean, that we went straight through some of the pre-mission training and then on to Iraq in 2008, even into 2009. It's like a 10-month deployment. Pretty much all of 2008, though, I spent in Iraq. And yeah, it was a good time. I'll just say that we worked with the Iraqi Special Forces. We worked with the Iraqi police to develop a SWAT unit, and you know, we went on. We had a couple months there where we didn't do anything. We were locked down because of the province we were in, and we had, you know, quite a few months there where we were going out almost every night. You know, fighting side by side along with the Iraqi, you know, Special Operations Unit, and no, it was great. I mean, more than anything, I just really, obviously, I loved my teammates and doing the work with them, but seeing the change in those people there and watching some of those soldiers develop, some of the young Iraqi soldiers develop, knowing the challenges they face with the lack of education and resources, it's just great to see that, you know, that tangible knowing that you are making a difference in at least a few people's careers and lives, and seeing the appreciation for us being there, because you don't always see that. You know, a lot of times you know, when you're on patrol or whatever, and people are, you know, kids are throwing rocks at you or whatever, and it can be really frustrating. So it was good to see the other side of that too. I think that's one thing that's unique in the Special Forces. You get to see that side of things too sometimes. That a lot of other units don't get to see.
There is a lot of that. I was fortunate enough to be attached to 5th and 10th Group when I was there from 05 to 06, and it's just like you say. There were times when you'd have missions that just kind of stunk and didn't really yield anything, but there are other times when you go out to a school and you give kids school supplies and you see how excited they are and that they think the world of you, and then you work with some of these soldiers who you know, show the patriotism that we feel as Americans. And they want to defend their country. They want to defend their nation. And to work side by side with those people, I think, was one of the most rewarding things, at least for me, when I work with the ISOF guys. It was one of the most rewarding things is to watch them grow and be able to stand on their own 2 feet. It's almost like raising a child to a certain extent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly like that. I mean, well, I've never raised a child, but but yeah, it does feel like that. You feel like like a big brother in a lot of ways. And no, that's huge. I love this. Just like what you said about the patriotism. I remember my very last mission I was ever on, the very last firefight I was ever in Afghanistan. The captain, the Afghan captain, for the special forces team we were with, was shot and killed. And I remember our helo coming in, the American medevac helo coming in to take his body away. And I don't think this was supposed to happen, because typically only Americans are supposed to approach our aircraft and stuff like that. But it was really cool to see that this happened. It was 3 Americans and 3 Afghans carrying the gurney of the fallen Afghan captain out to the American medevac bird to be taken off.
Wow.
And you know what I mean? It was just that I remember just watching that happen, that image. While it was very sad that we lost the captain today, it was a powerful image for me, and to see that sort of trust and, like you said, that patriotism and how they really care about the ones they're fighting alongside as well, no matter what flag's on their shoulder. And they put the gurney on the bird, and they're coming back off the LZ, and the bird's taken off, and it's kicking up the dirt and dust and all that stuff. And one of the Afghan soldiers, as we're coming back, just dropped to his knees and just started weeping in the middle of this field, and it was just man, I just saw in his body and his face, that was his friend, but that was also his leader, and that was that was his brother. That was the reason he was fighting, was that guy. You know what I mean? It's just the reason we do a lot of what we do. It's just about the man next to us. And so to see that, it's not for a paycheck, it's not for any other reason, but the ones that they care about and their country. And it was it was a sad moment, but at the same time, you see those little glimmers of hope in there that make that make those hardest times, and those toughest missions, and those situations where you're wondering, why am I here? What are we really doing here? It helps those moments sort of make sense when you see that.
Again, very, very well said. Now, did you ever get emotional in any of your deployments, either because of anything that went on with your guys or because of a connection to the guys you were working with alongside?
Honestly, I don't know if I just flip something off when I'm over there, but no. No, but every time I came home, I deployed, I went to Iraq once and Afghanistan twice, and every time I came home, after my first deployment, I remember I came back from Iraq to Philadelphia. Actually, my brother was going to Penn, a school out there, and he was on the wrestling team. So I went out. I came back, and this was in January or February or so, when I got back to the States. And then, I took leave, and I went out to Philadelphia to see him, and it was some wrestling tournament or whatever. And they had a guy come back that used to be on the wrestling team that went into the military, and he joined he was in special operations. I can't even remember what he did, what unit he was in, but he's up there speaking about his time at Penn when he was arrested, and talking about what it meant to him, fighting for what we had to, and started talking about someone, I think one of his brothers that he lost over there, and he got a little bit choked up, and I just lost it. And I think it was all that stuff I was stuffing down and holding down over the last 9-10 months. But it's just it was embarrassing. I don't know how I was, crying. And I remember my mom was there. So I looked over at me, and she's like, "Oh, me," and I'm like, "Oh God, get away from me." But but yeah, I think I always kind of just held that stuff in. You know, and when I remember, you know, people I served with that I don't hear anymore, or situations, and speak about them with other people. Sometimes I get, you know, I get really choked up about that, but I never really got that way over there. And I think it was just a defense mechanism in knowing that I had to stay switched on, you know, until this thing was over, and I couldn't let those emotions affect me, because it might affect my work, you know.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of, you know, people who have served can sympathize with that thought process. I mean, I know there are certain things when I see that are military related that still get me all choked up. My wife will look at me kind of crooked eyed, like, "What's wrong?" You know, and it's hard to explain what the connection is to all of it internally. But if you've gone through the suck, as we've called it, and you've worked next to guys day in and day out, I think you grow to understand, you know, what it means to truly care about somebody more than yourself. I mean, again, you take the American lifestyle and everything that we have and everything that's around us, and you kind of forget the simple things that the connections that make things special. And when you're brought back to those moments, it can be definitely emotional for anybody. And to all the veterans listening, you know, just as a kind of little PSA, if you will, Nate. I know that you work with veterans now, but don't hold anything in anymore. I mean, you know, go talk to somebody. If you're struggling with somebody, go talk to somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, there's survivor's guilt and a lot of issues for us coming back, especially once we get out. We don't have that community anymore, and that sort of outlet. It can be, you know, it can really consume us, and I know it does that to a lot of people. Yeah, and that's one thing about that's sort of changing, which I like, is the fact that it's okay for us now to. It's seen as okay in our community to go talk to somebody about something, and to, you know, to have feelings. Like, that's all right, normal.
Yeah.
And yeah, but we're still losing. There's different studies that have different numbers, but we're losing, you know, 20 to 22 veterans a day to suicide still, and a lot of that is, I think, not having that outlet anymore, not having that community, and then also not feeling like you have that purpose anymore, and doing maybe that feeling that you'll never do anything as important as what you did over there.
Yeah.
Which doesn't have to be true at all, you know, not at all. I mean, I think that there's so much opportunity for us to.
Well, it's just
do
it's a
even
different
more
purpose.
important things than we did over there now, because of what we've sacrificed and what we've survived. We have a certain, as Liam Neeson would say, we have a certain set of skills, you know, that sets us apart from a typical person because of what we've overcome. So use that to our advantage. You know what I mean? Even all the pain and the terrible things that we witnessed and had to go through, and the people we lost. What better way to honor them than to go, you know, do something incredible with the rest of your life, and that can 100% be in the service, in the world of service for others. So.
Now, Nate, why did you end up getting out? I mean, some people make a whole career out of it, but was there anything in particular? Did you feel like you just wanted to do something different?
I just have a lot of dreams. I always have. I've got a lot of things I want to try and I want to do. And it was a tough decision because I had the opportunity also to go back over to that other unit that I was talking about earlier and potentially finish my training there and serve with them. But that was going to be a big commitment. And that was probably going to be a career move if I did that. And there was a other part of me that I still wanted to go to college, and I wanted to go try and play football. It was just something that I never did. And I know it sounds maybe childish, but it was like this regret I had that I never played, and I wanted to do that. I didn't want to live with that regret. And it was a really hard decision, but I went out and did that. You know, I went back to college. And even after a year in at college, I missed the military so much, I signed back up for through the National Guard. I was in 19 Special Forces for my last 4 years in college. Actually went overseas every summer somewhere and served for about 3 or 4 months before coming back to school. So I still was able to keep that in my life. But yeah, I just really wanted to do that. And I was 28 when I made the decision, 29 when I actually went off to college. And it was sort of, for me, I just felt like if I didn't go now, at least with the football aspect, if I didn't go now, that wasn't gonna happen. I was gonna be too old, and too many things would have happened. Other opportunities would have came up, and so I just decided to go for it. You know, and I had the encouragement of a few of my buddies on my SF team that were like, dude, go do that, man. Like, you need to go do that. So I did, and I sort of made that decision at the end of my deployment in Iraq that I was going to at least look into doing that. So I started training over there, you know, doing different kind of football-related drills. and I came back, and the only school I applied to was the University of Texas. I was actually over in Israel on a J set with my team just 2 or 3 months before my ETS date, and I was over there, and I got an email, you know, a letter in an email saying that I was accepted in Texas, that I would be going out. School starting like January 8th or something like that, and this was like in October or November when I got this email. So I knew at that moment, like, okay, things are about to completely change.
Right.
And you know, fortunately for me, the transition out of the military and into that civilian world, I had a specific goal and something a challenge, you know what I mean? Something I still had to sort of fight for in a sense, which I think really helped with the transition, because a lot of guys come out, they don't have that, and girls come out and they don't have that idea. They're just like, I just want to go on vacation, or I can't wait to just be out and relax, you know. They don't understand how quickly that becomes incredibly boring. But also, when you don't have a mission anymore, it's tough. You know what I mean? We're the type of, for whatever reason, our makeup is someone that we need a task, we need a mission, we need a goal, we need something, you know, like I said, to fight for. And if we don't have that anymore, and that service element in our life, man, like it can get really, really hard really quick. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
And that's where a lot of the struggles come from, I think.
We've all been there at one time or another, especially if you get back from a deployment. Like you said, it's just the decompression is sometimes difficult to deal with. You mentioned football. You go play at Texas. Was the NFL something that you wanted to do, or did that just kind of come about because of how well you played and who you were?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was always something I wanted to do when I was a little kid. You know, I was Joe Montana for Halloween 2 years
All right.
ago, when I was like 4 and 5, you know. So I definitely, growing up as a young man, I wanted to be a pro athlete in some way, but the reality of that, you know, in my late teens, came crashing down that it probably wasn't going to happen. And when I was at college, I really wasn't thinking about that. To be honest, I was like, you know, I'll play college football. By the time I graduate, I'll be 33. I mean, that's pretty old for the NFL. And but I ended up winning that starting job at Texas as a starting long snapper for the last 3 years. And you know, at the end of my senior year, I got invited to play in this all-star game called the Medal of Honor Bowl, actually, in Charleston. And so I flew out there, played in the game that week before the game in practices. There's like 100 scouts from these NFL teams that come to these practices and just watch the guys. And so I had scouts from several different teams come up to me and be like, hey, our GM said to come meet you and blah, blah, blah. You know, the typical long snapper in the NFL is about 6'3", 6'4", you know, 240 or 250 pounds. Well, I'm like 5'10" and a half. At the time when I was out there, I was about 195 pounds. And they straight up said, you're going to have to put on about 40 pounds, you know, if you want to shot at this. But, you know, it's January now, and the draft is the end of April, beginning of May, so it's up to you, but you know, you'd have to put some work in to try to make this happen. So I just said, screw it, I'll go for it. If nobody calls by May 2nd, which is the last day of the draft, then, you know, I'll just lose the weight, move on with my life. And so I trained for it. I came out to L.A., started training at Unbreakable Performance Center, which is Jay Glazer's gym. I don't know if you know Jay Glazer.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, great guy. We ended up starting a nonprofit together, and a huge veteran supporter. And so I came out here and started training, and sure enough, the draft day rolled around, the last day of the draft, and the Seahawks and the Rams ended up calling me, and I had to choose between one of the two. It's a really hard decision. But at the time, the Rams were in St. Louis, and the Seahawks were in Seattle, and the Seahawks had just been to back-to-back Super Bowls. And I just wanted to, for me, I was like, what's going to be a bigger challenge? maybe stupid to think, but I wanted to go to the most elite team at that moment, and so I made the decision to accept the Seahawks offer, even though I grew up a Niners fan. It's like their rival. But so I did it, and it was amazing. I went up there, I went through the training camp, and I played the whole second half of that first preseason game last year against the Broncos, who ended up going on to win the Super Bowl. I mean, it was just honestly like a dream, sort of. It really felt, it was unreal to standing on the sideline, listening to the national anthem in, the Seattle Seahawks NFL uniform, with all the fans and the whole deal. I was just like, wow, this is so weird. And I was 34 already. I'm 30. I was the oldest rookie in NFL history, and I'm like, it's just another one of those moments where I'm like, I'm just not supposed to be here. It's awesome. So.
Well, is football completely done for you? Have you moved on?
Yeah, it is. I trained throughout the rest of that season, and had some interest from a couple teams, but I ended up not. None of them signed me. And I trained in the beginning of the off season this year. But once training camp, and once OTAs started back in May, and I still hadn't signed with the team, it was just tough to keep that weight on. I got all the way up to 228 pounds, so I was able to. I put on over about 35 pounds from that Medal of Honor Bowl, just to get that shot in Seattle. I had to, and I'm not supposed to weigh that much. That's just I'm just not, my frame's not that big.
Right.
And so keeping the weight on was one of the challenges. It just didn't feel great. So once I kind of made that decision this summer, early in the summer here, to go ahead and just lose the weight, get back to and moving on with all these other things that I want to do. And so I'm I'm already back there. I'm like 180 pounds right now. I lost it so bad.
Back to your normal playing weight, as they say.
Yeah.
So what's next for you now? I mean, where can people find you? What's next for you?
Yeah, I'm involved with a couple of nonprofits that I'm really excited about. So one of them is MVP, which I thought you mentioned. It stands for Emerging Veteran Players. The one I started with Jay Glazer, and I've been doing a lot of work with some homeless vets here in Los Angeles area. But the main idea of this is to bring together, ex-athletes, elite athletes, and elite warriors in the battlefield together, because they sort of have a lot of similarities in mindset, and also a lot of them are having trouble with the transition. You know what I mean? Obviously, they come from completely different places, and I would never try to say that an athlete sacrifices and goes through what a soldier or a veteran goes through. But they do have some similarities, and they have a mutual respect for each other, and it's kind of been cool to see these guys come together. So at least every Thursday out here in LA, we at 2 p.m., which will be today, it is Thursday, we have about 15 to 20 of these vets have been coming to the gym up there at Two Unbreakable, and then we have different athletes from USC, from the NFL, from the NHL, that will come in and train with these guys. And we sit around afterwards and kind of have a fireside chat, and everybody talks about where they're at. I mean, these guys, a lot of these vets, like I said, are either homeless or have been homeless, suicide attempts, pill addiction, like all, major PTSD issues, all this stuff. But, when we build that community again around out here and kind of keep pushing them forward, not just like, hey, let's just get back to a place where we're not going to kill ourselves. No, let's like push ourselves to do some great things in our community and see, be men and women of service once again, and to see them get back on their feet and go crush life. And I'm doing a Tough Mudder with a big group of them in October here. Some of these guys, they didn't touch it. They didn't exercise 1 second after they, got out of the Marine Corps 5 years ago, and now they're like trying to piece everything back together and challenging themselves in that way. So that's one of them. And the other big nonprofit I'm involved with is called Water Boys, which was started by Chris Long. Chris Long was a defensive end for the Rams.
Right.
Now he's plays for the Patriots. He's Howard Long's son, actually. And it's a clean water project. And he started out in Tanzania. And, he got NFL players involved with some of the fundraising stuff. But he asked me if I'd like to be involved because of my Africa connection. And what I decided to do was I took a single leg amputee out last year, above the knee amputee, to go attempt Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and we raised about $120,000 for clean water wells before we went. And he didn't finish the climb. He attempted. He didn't make it all the way up. I went ahead and knocked it out, and then came back down and met him. And we went to the villages where the well sites are being dug, and visited with the Maasai warriors around this tribe and these people. And it's incredible. So we're planning on going back again this next year with a group of amputees, I think, and going to all climb together and try to get this thing done. But anyway, that's some of the nonprofit stuff. Otherwise, I'm working in the film and television industry now. I'm actually technically a producer now.
Wow.
On an independent film. We're this close to going into production on, and it's called Thunder Road. It's about the veteran suicide epidemic, and it's a lower budget film. It's $4 million. It sounds like a lot of money to me, but as far as movies go, that's low budget, I guess. And then I just wrapped. I can't talk specifically about this project, but there was a video game project that kind of had some of the similarities to my story, and so they had me involved with that, and I'm actually play one of the characters in the video game.
Nice.
Believe it or not, I'm acting.
There you go.
Acting like what? I don't know.
I think the best part of that story was how you just said, well, I went out and knocked out the rest of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro as if it was, something simple to do. I just went out and knocked it out. But I guess that kind of speaks guess that kind of speaks to just your entire story. It's inspirational, to say the least. It's amazing. I'm glad and thankful that you spent some time with us here on the podcast. I hope people will continue to seek you out. I know you're going to continue to do great things. And honestly, just thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it, brother.
You've been listening to the Hazard Ground Podcast, hosted by Mark Zeno and produced by Matt Pasquarella. If you have an interesting story to tell and you'd like to be on the show, send us an email at hazardgroundpodcast@gmail.com. And if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.